So this is where I developed a belief of something about the void, and that is that the void is very weak in reality. Here it is. Unstable. Returning to the twisting nether. They summoned it out of the twisting nether. Which is where warlocks summon their stuff too. But see how it's unstable? Maybe they make it wrong? But I think that that's the premise of Void Lords. No, they don't make it wrong. Guys, this is how they work. They completed the summoning, but in order for this thing to remain stable, it has to consume. That's the whole premise of the Void. This is why I say that the premise of the Void consuming all of reality is kind of strange, because when they consume it, they will invariably just fall back into the Void. Like, there's nothing... What I'm trying to say is that there's no end point. There's no victory. There's not like a... Like, what's the point? Like, let's consume all of reality so that everything in reality can just become void, and so that we're just stuck in the void. It doesn't make any sense. End reality, let reality start again, but that's not what the creation mythos says. The creation mythos does not say that the void existed or anything like... It's antithetical, it's what I'm saying, man. It doesn't work in a fucking cycle. It's linear. There is no cycle. It's the one aberration. It's what I've been trying to point out, man. Order and chaos have a very difficult to identify cycle because of their inherently connected fucking nature. Same way with life and death. Void and light do not have a cyclical nature. They just don't. They just don't move cyclically. They have to be changed, like, forcibly by magic or mortals. They do not go from light or from void back to light. It's just not a fucking thing. We literally have zero evidence, ever, of something naturally going from void back to light without some type of direct intervention. Nothing. Now, the void and light can fit. I can conceptually make them fit. But not as the... In my opinion, there's still a problem. Because the creation mythos states that before even Azeroth came to be, you know, light and void were a thing. I think that's bullshit, personally. I think that's a fucking lie. If Azeroth is I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. The premise that one thing came before all the others... It just doesn't make sense to me. Especially when we see how those forces are personified in the game, like Holy Naru. They're not just... The main shepherds of said force are not like literally anything else. Unless Azeroth signifies light, she signifies everything. But yes, especially light. Yes, Azeroth signifies light, but she does not signify holy light. The way I see it is there was one supreme being that literally created a bunch of other beings from her essence, and then she probably went to sleep. And then while she was asleep, resting for the cyclical reset of the universe, her children fucking imprisoned her and tried to steal her power. So, light and void, if those... I really don't fucking think that that's Azeroth. I really don't think so. I think that light and shadow, and they are quite literally separated from one another. Shadow and void, in the description for the Shadow Priest. It's just, there's just... Nah. There's just it's too many coincidences. What kind of shadow does Subtlety Rogue use? What kind of shadow does Death Knight use? Exactly, I don't think it's void related. Things relating to death and decay and, like, disease, I don't relate that to void. But for some reason, WoW likes to try to say that they're both shadow. Well, that doesn't fucking fly with me. So... They are, technically, but they're not the same. Shadow and void magic are different. Not even the old gods seem to use pure void, it's more like flesh. It's very weird. If light and void are meant to be a thing, then I don't necessarily know if I believe that they exist on the same level as the other cosmic forces. Like, I don't know, dude. They seem more like forces of polarity and like astral and umbral in nature. They seem like things that should be affecting reality, but not physically manifested in reality. And that goes for void and light. That goes for really any magic, to be honest with you, but especially void and light. For sure, the old god corruption isn't void in nature, it instead draws the void to it. That's what Gahoon sure makes it seem like. Pretty sure Gahoon's fight description like literally says that he drew in, that the void energies were like attracted to it. Void and light seek so much power and control because neither has true power of their own. I actually kind of agree with that. I think that to an extent, both the void and the light rely upon the mortal soul to fucking operate, to do anything, frankly. Without mortals and stuff like that to like have hope and bolster those types of things, I don't really think that they do much. Which is part of why I see them as forces that were probably created directly as a means to influence mortals. And that's also why I think that they're probably fucking being used by Aman'Thul, that fuckface, who literally has a lightning bolt with light and void on it. So, that he calls Orator. So, like, I mean, it's no mistake, you guys, that the nature of light and void have been left as, like, the last thing. You guys, people realize this, right? That, like, we've tackled all the other stuff except that. And, like, there's no, like, it could be because it is the long circle. And there's a good chance that the eternal conflict between light and void is something that we just flat out do not understand. That it's not literally a war that's occurring. It's just a shift in power that's occurring all the time. It may have a finite beginning and ending. It may, but we don't have proof of that. We're using real-life scientific theories to try to postulate what we think the light and void are, because they're divine in nature to the point that we don't understand what they are. Like, and I really think, even though it's fun to do that, I think you gotta be careful not to just decide that, oh, that's just the answer. Because it probably isn't. Science is our way of helping us understand what is otherwise seen as magic, especially in this universe. I'm thinking the war within, I really, really do think that thing up in the sky is going to be a big, big key. I think the thing in Hollowvale, or Hallowfall, I think is hopefully going to answer some of our questions about the nature of light and void. Or it's going to at least start to hint at more of it. And then I think that midnight will probably actually answer the questions that we have. It's just like, to me, if the physical representation of the forces of light and void exist as Naru and void lords or void gods or whatever, I just don't think, again, like Xal'atath alludes to the idea that all of the light entities will inevitably fall into the void, and she's right. My question is that, like, why do we assume that if that happens, that there's going to be some kind of spark that just, like, reignites, like, sets it all to light again? Like, that seems to be the assumption that people are operating off of. That, like, oh, well, once the void consumes it, we're just going to be reborn. I do not see evidence of that. Like, what? Like, why do people think that? Because we're told that there's supposedly a cycle, and we see them go from light to void. Like, so we just inherently believe that somehow, some way, they're gonna go back, even though in the priest fucking class order hall, like, you see that that's not the case. It's almost, to me, sometimes it comes off like we've given the benefit of the doubt to the light and void's legitimacy in our cosmos because it was presented to us in the same manner that the other cosmic forces were. And I think that that's a trap. I mean, think about it. We're talking about a cosmological map that's written by gods who potentially don't fundamentally understand the nature of the universe. So what they think may have occurred with light and void may not even be correct. I also think that what Luminos said yesterday, or the day before, was like pretty true, you know? We're talking about gods of order, whose literal domain would be like stability, reality, you know? How in the ever-living fuck the Titans, who are literal masters of the fucking physical spaces that and methods which comprise reality, wouldn't know about light and void fully, which literally allegedly gave birth to the whole cosmos? That sounds like a flawed perspective to me. It is interesting that the crystal in Holofall apparently switches between light and void, which doesn't usually happen, right? How come? I'm assuming whatever's occurring inside there is not natural. I mean, do you guys think big crystalline ships filled with light entities crashing into our planet is natural? Like, that doesn't seem like a fucking good idea. I really, really like the idea that that ship is actually where the Apexis civilization fucking disappeared to. Someone was saying yesterday about a theory that, you know, they were linking Chronicle Volume 2 stuff about how the fucking part of the civilization just literally disappeared. And that later people found schematics that they were gonna build a ship that could fly. Huh. Interesting. And then in Dragonflight, we actually have the Apexis Arakoa in Thaldraszus. They're just in the wrong timeline. In the wrong place at the wrong time.